What if your entire world is merely an exquisitely designed fabrication? This audio course delves into one of today's most thought-provoking hypotheses, the notion that our universe, and all you perceive as real, could be an advanced simulation. By blending insights from philosophy, science, and technology, we will explore the reasons why this once fanciful concept is now gaining remarkable credibility. For a moment, allow yourself to imagine that everything you experience, the sky you see, the people you care for, is simply a feature in a complex video game designed by some superior intelligence. While this may sound like pure fantasy, contemporary thinkers like Nick Bostrom contend that such a reality is statistically more probable than you might think. The simulation hypothesis challenges you to entertain the notion that your existence is, at its core, an artificial reality.
So, how did such a radical idea emerge, and what sort of evidence can possibly support it? The concept of an illusory reality has fascinated humanity for centuries, from Plato's famous allegory of the cave to countless works of modern science fiction. The fear that we are living within a grand deception or an elaborate dream has been explored from every angle. The question is, what makes this age-old speculation so urgent right now?
In our current era of rapidly advancing virtual reality and artificial intelligence, the line separating the genuine from the simulated grows increasingly faint. The technologies used to build virtual environments have achieved an astounding degree of realism. Immersion in these digital worlds is now so complete that discerning what is authentic from what is a copy can be a genuine challenge. Are we heading toward a future where simulations are an everyday part of life? A point where the distinction between what is real and what is not simply ceases to exist.
Within the realm of quantum physics, reality's nature becomes even more puzzling. The laws of quantum mechanics indicate that the very act of observing a particle can influence its state. This introduces the compelling idea that reality might be a construct that relies on our perception to exist. What would this imply about our place in the cosmos, and more pointedly, about the feasibility of living inside a simulation?
Temporal paradoxes introduce yet another level of intricacy to this debate. If time itself is not fixed but can be manipulated, could our reality just be a sequence of code that dictates specific moments in a program? This line of inquiry compels us to examine the very essence of time and how it relates to the possibility of a simulated existence. Artificial intelligence stands out as a critical element in this investigation, as our power to construct simulated worlds has expanded exponentially.
The breathtaking speed at which AI is progressing is both inspiring and deeply unsettling. A crucial question arises. What would occur if humanity created an artificial intelligence so powerful it could simulate its own distinct reality? The ethical consequences of achieving such a milestone are truly staggering. String theory, with its postulation of dimensions beyond our direct experience, could also provide a fresh lens through which to view the concept of multiple realities, suggesting a vast multiverse where countless parallel universes, each with its own simulations, could potentially exist.
To help grasp these difficult ideas, we can turn to thought experiments, the valuable tools of philosophy. Exercises ranging from Schrödinger's cat paradox to ethical puzzles about consciousness challenge you to reevaluate the foundations of your being. These intellectual drills raise the question of whether our lives, much like a game, might be subject to some form of underlying programming.
The observer's role, a central theme in quantum mechanics, is pivotal to this entire discussion. The notion that your perception can shape the world around you is profoundly significant, prompting us to ask if we are, in fact, co-creators of our own reality through our choices and experiences. The philosophical fallout of residing in a simulation is enormous, touching everything from deep-seated skepticism to the personal quest for meaning, as the possibility of universal deception forces you to question the nature of truth itself.
Even spirituality offers a relevant perspective in this conversation. Numerous religious and spiritual philosophies have long described the material world as an illusion. It's possible that these ancient insights into reality's nature are now converging with the modern hypothesis of a simulated universe, creating a fascinating bridge between science and faith. Similarly, our dreams present a personal look into reality's fluid nature, as we accept wildly distorted perceptions as authentic while they are happening. Could your dreams be a form of personalized simulation, revealing not just hidden desires but also the fundamental mechanics of reality?
Ultimately, accepting the simulation hypothesis could have deep societal consequences. If this idea were to gain widespread acceptance, it could fundamentally alter our human interactions, our goals, and the very structure of our civilization. Viewing our lives as part of a grander simulation has the power to completely reshape how you see the world and your place within it. As we explore these complex topics, it is essential that you maintain an open mind and question the very basis of what you consider to be knowledge. This is just the start of our deep dive into whether our existence is a simulation, and the conclusion of this journey might be more transformative than you can possibly foresee. The theory that we inhabit a simulated reality has fascinated philosophers, scientists, and storytellers. But what are the origins of this compelling idea? It truly begins to take shape with the work of a modern philosopher named Nick Bostrom. In 2003, Nick Bostrom introduced a concept that, despite its complexity, has a simple core. If advanced societies can generate highly realistic simulations, then it's probable that simulated individuals vastly outnumber those in base reality. What could this possibly imply for you and me? Does it suggest we are just participants in some grand cosmic computer game?
Bostrom outlined 3 distinct scenarios to consider. The first possibility is that highly developed civilizations tend to wipe themselves out before they can master the technology needed for such simulations. A second alternative is that, even with the capability, they simply choose not to simulate their own past. The third and most compelling option posits that if these simulations are indeed created, then the odds are overwhelmingly high that we are currently living inside one.
Take a moment to entertain the thought that every person you've encountered and every memory you hold could be elements of a sophisticated program designed by beings far more advanced than us. This idea inevitably forces you to re-examine the very foundation of your existence. The ramifications of this hypothesis are immense, raising fundamental questions. If our world is a simulation, who is in control? What is its ultimate goal? And how does this knowledge alter our entire perception of reality? The notion that our existence might be a simulation doesn't just challenge our understanding of what it means to be. It also prompts a profound reassessment of our connection to technology and artificial intelligence. This leads to an unavoidable question. Are we, through our own technological progress, on a path to architecting our own simulated futures? One fascinating aspect of Bostrom's theory is the link it forges between the idea of a simulation and the human condition. Each one of us experiences the world in a unique way, filtered through our own senses and emotions. If this reality is an artificial construct, does that diminish the value of our experiences, or could simulated feelings be just as profound as those in a base reality? This question forces us to deeply consider the meaning of love, suffering, and joy within a potentially programmed existence. The boundary between what is real and what is simulated grows increasingly indistinct with every technological leap we make.
It's truly remarkable how today's video games can provide such deeply immersive worlds that we can momentarily lose sight of their artificial nature. This brings up a rather unsettling thought. If we are capable of building such believable virtual environments, what's to stop a more advanced civilization from having created the reality you currently inhabit? It's precisely at this juncture that science and philosophy converge, opening up a captivating field for debate.
Bostrom's work also encourages a reflection on the very definition of reality. If everything you perceive is an elaborate construct, could there be a hidden, deeper significance to your daily life that fundamentally questions the nature of your being? This places us on a quest for purpose. The knowledge of being in a simulation could potentially guide you toward a more conscious and rewarding life, or it could just as easily plunge you into a state of hopelessness and nihilism. Beyond this, the simulation theory raises a host of other compelling questions about our deepest convictions. How would accepting this hypothesis affect your spiritual and philosophical beliefs? Can religion hold any meaning within a simulated universe? The potential answers are as varied as the individuals pondering them. While some faiths might discover parallels to their creation stories, others could perceive this idea as a direct challenge to their foundational principles. The hypothesis also compels us to re-examine our understanding of time and space. If our universe is a program, how do these dimensions function? Is it possible that they are merely lines of code being manipulated by some unseen cosmic programmer? This is where quantum physics enters the conversation. The bizarre behaviors observed in subatomic particles suggest that reality doesn't always operate according to straightforward logic, which some argue could be the telltale signs of a simulated framework. Living in a simulation could also fundamentally alter our relationships with one another. If we are all part of this elaborate program, what does that imply about empathy and our shared human bond? Should we view others as simple, automated characters in a game, or is there still an inherent value in our collective experiences? The way you choose to answer these questions could profoundly influence our society and our engagement with the world. We must also consider the growing role of artificial intelligence in this entire discussion. As we draw nearer to engineering machines with the capacity to learn and evolve, a critical question emerges. Will we eventually create our own complex simulations? If the answer is yes, this says a great deal about our own trajectory. It suggests that we might be on a journey to becoming the very programmers of new realities. Ultimately, when you grapple with the simulation hypothesis, it's crucial to accept that there are no certain conclusions. Part of engaging with these concepts is embracing the inherent uncertainty of it all. The true power of philosophical inquiry lies in its capacity to generate more questions. So, I ask you, do you believe you are living inside a simulation? Or is reality precisely what it appears to be? Throughout this exploration, I've aimed to unpack the intricate layers of simulation theory and the ways it challenges you to question your own existence. Delving into these ideas is not just a captivating mental exercise. It has the potential to completely reshape your worldview. The next time you observe your surroundings, allow yourself to consider that everything you perceive might be part of a masterfully crafted design. How might that single thought shift your entire outlook on life? The concept of a simulated reality is not as modern as you might assume. Its origins are woven through centuries of philosophical and scientific thought, where the nature of reality has been repeatedly deconstructed and reimagined. What is it about this idea that sparks such enduring fascination? Why has it captivated so many minds across different eras of history? In ancient Greece, Plato offered his renowned allegory of the cave, in which prisoners, chained and facing a wall,
perceive reality only through the shadows cast upon it. Their entire world consists of these flickering shapes, until one prisoner breaks free and discovers the source of the light. This allegory highlights the constraints of our own perception and urges us to question the authenticity of what we call real. Does this not resonate with our modern condition, where we too might be prisoners of our own sensory inputs? Continuing this philosophical journey, we later find René Descartes, who championed the principle of radical doubt, which ultimately led him to his famous declaration, "I think, therefore I am."
For the philosopher Descartes, the single unshakable certainty was his own existence as a conscious mind. But what if all that you perceive is merely a component of a dream or a grand illusion? In his writings, he entertains the possibility of a malevolent entity capable of deceiving us about the very fabric of reality. This concept finds a modern parallel in the simulation hypothesis, which suggests that our entire existence might be under the control of some other being or intelligence. Literature and film have likewise delved into this compelling theme, making the narrative of living inside a simulated world a potent device for storytelling, from tales of time tunnels to the universe of the Matrix. What is it about these stories that captivates us so deeply? It might stem from an innate human desire to challenge our surroundings and uncover a more profound truth. The characters in The Matrix, for example, face a choice between a red pill and a blue pill, a potent symbol for the conflict between remaining in ignorance or embracing knowledge. It forces you to ask yourself, would you want to know the truth, even if it proved to be deeply unsettling? Throughout human history, science has also been a central voice in this ongoing conversation. As technology has advanced, particularly in the field of computing, the similarities between our own reality and digital simulations have grown increasingly apparent. During the 1980s, the author William Gibson brought the concept of cyberspace into the mainstream, presenting the idea of a virtual domain where experiences feel just as authentic as those in the physical world. Are we, in many ways, not getting closer to this very reality? The many worlds interpretation, a theory put forth by some quantum physicists, also harmonizes with the notion that our existence could be just one simulation among countless others. If you entertain the idea that every choice you make might splinter off into a new universe, doesn't it seem plausible that we could be living in one of these resulting alternate realities? This line of thought inevitably leads you to wonder just how many versions of yourself could be out there, living in parallel existences. Within the sphere of contemporary philosophy, Nick Bostrom has advanced the hypothesis that if technologically mature civilizations are capable of creating simulations of their own histories, then it is statistically probable that we are living in one of them. His argument rests on the premise that if creating a simulation indistinguishable from reality is achievable, and considering the near infinite number of such simulations that could be run, the odds are overwhelmingly in favor of us being inhabitants of a simulation, rather than the original, base reality. But how could we ever be certain of this? The concept of simulation has also found fertile ground in popular culture, appearing in everything from video games to movies, where the protagonists must grapple with the fundamental nature of their world. These stories serve as an invitation for you to reflect on your own life, to question what you accept as real, and to consider what might be nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. Isn't it a fascinating idea that your daily experiences could simply be lines of code executing within a vast cosmic program? Religion also engages with this subject in its own way. Many faiths propose that this life is a form of trial or a game in which souls are meant to learn and grow. Viewed through this lens, could the simulation be a powerful metaphor for our own spiritual development? It's possible that we are here to navigate different realities, gain wisdom from them,
and, in the end, move beyond them.
The idea of dreams contributes its own layer to this inquiry, as many cultures have historically viewed dreams as portals to alternate realities. When you dream, you often find yourself in worlds that possess all the sensory richness of your waking hours. If dreams represent a kind of personal simulation, is it not conceivable that our waking life is just a different, more persistent type of dream? Are we perhaps only dreaming that we are awake right now? With each new wave of technological innovation, the simulation concept gains more relevance. Virtual and augmented realities now enable us to inhabit worlds that were once confined to our imaginations. This growing proximity to simulated environments raises deep questions about the authenticity of our own experiences. If we possess the ability to craft alternate realities, what stops you from believing that another intelligence might have already done precisely that with our entire universe? The history of simulation is an incredible odyssey that winds through philosophy, science, and culture, continually prompting us to interrogate our existence and contemplate the essence of reality itself. In a world where the distinction between what is real and what is simulated is becoming progressively indistinct, it is vital that we continue to investigate these profound questions. Are you prepared to truly consider the possibility that everything you know is just one part of an elaborate, masterfully designed simulation game?
Virtual and augmented reality have woven themselves into the fabric of modern life. But what if I were to tell you that these technologies offer only a tiny preview of what a complete simulation might entail? The thought that our experiences could be entirely immersive and artificially generated raises fascinating questions about the very nature of our being. How feasible is it, really, to differentiate between what is genuine and what is simulated?
In its most unadulterated form, virtual reality plunges us into digitally constructed worlds. By wearing a headset, you can find yourself standing on a mountain peak, delving into the ocean's abyss, or soaring above a metropolis of the future. While these experiences are certainly remarkable, a clear boundary always remains between the virtual and the physical. The moment you take off the headset, you are instantly returned to your familiar, everyday reality. But imagine for a moment if that boundary simply didn't exist.
Augmented reality, by contrast, superimposes digital elements onto our actual surroundings. Consider applications that overlay data onto the view from your phone's camera, allowing you to see a dinosaur stomp through your living room, or a work of art appear on an empty wall. This merging of the real and the digital is not just entertaining. It forces you to acknowledge how easily your perception of reality can be altered. What does reality even signify if we are able to modify it with such ease? This progression leads to a rather unsettling question. If our technology can fashion such convincing experiences, what prevents you from concluding that our own lives might be unfolding within an incredibly advanced simulation? Some theorists contend that as virtual and augmented reality continue their rapid evolution, we may inevitably arrive at a point where the line separating the real from the simulated becomes functionally undetectable.
Is it conceivable that you could one day learn your entire life has been an elaborate simulation without your knowledge? Think about the evolution of video games. With every technological leap, their visuals become more lifelike, and their narratives more intricate, to the point where we are approaching gaming experiences that are virtually identical to reality.
If entertainment can achieve such a high level of fidelity, what might be achievable for existence itself? This leads to the question of whether your own reality is just a vast, sophisticated video game. Certain thinkers propose that, similar to online role-playing adventures, your life could be just a sequence of choices made inside a pre-programmed framework,
with every move you make dictated by an underlying code that remains beyond our comprehension.
Such a possibility forces you to question the very nature of free will and personal accountability. If your life is simulated, can you truly be held responsible for what you do? The rise of virtual and augmented reality technologies brings up similar ethical dilemmas. Just because you have the power to construct entirely new fictional universes, does that mean you ought to? You must also consider the psychological impact on individuals who spend excessive amounts of time immersed in these alternate realities. Picture a person who would rather inhabit an idealized, simulated world than confront the difficulties of actual life. Do you see this as a form of escapism, or is it a valid way of living? Moreover, the deep integration of these technologies into your daily routine could fundamentally change your perception of what is real, as constant immersion in virtual spaces may reshape how you think and feel. Could it be that you are inadvertently conditioning yourself to view reality as something fluid and changeable? If you start to experience the world through a simulated filter, it is worth asking how that might transform your personal relationships and social bonds. When you contemplate virtual and augmented reality, you also have to weigh their effect on human creativity, as these new realms can certainly spark innovation in art, design, and how we interact with one another. On the other hand, you must ask if total immersion in these simulations might diminish your capacity for authentic life experiences, essentially trading genuine reality for a perfected substitute. Yet, these technologies also provide a unique arena for self-discovery. For many, virtual reality offers a means to investigate facets of their identity that feel inaccessible or restricted in the physical world. This introduces a compelling question. If simulations allow you to reshape and explore your identity, what does that imply about your fundamental sense of self? As you advance into a future filled with ever more sophisticated virtual and augmented realities, it becomes crucial to reflect on what these technologies truly mean. It is unclear whether they broaden your conception of reality or simply create a greater separation from it, with the answer likely being different for each individual. Within this framework, the notion that you might be living in a simulation gains significant relevance, and as technology progresses, the questions surrounding the nature of reality only grow more profound. Should simulation become a reality, how would you ever differentiate between the authentic and the artificial? In the end, virtual and augmented reality are more than mere entertainment. They are mirrors reflecting your deepest existential concerns. The field of quantum mechanics confronts your conventional understanding of the world with concepts that feel borrowed from science fiction. This raises a provocative possibility. Could existence itself be an elaborate construct, a simulation where you are merely playing a part? When you view this idea through the lens of quantum principles, it becomes even more compelling, forcing you to ask what this branch of physics reveals about the very fabric of our universe. Among the most captivating concepts in quantum mechanics is superposition, which suggests a quantum system can exist in all its potential states at once until it is measured. For example, a flipped coin could be considered both heads and tails simultaneously while it is still in the air. The outcome only becomes definite the instant you look at it. This brings up a profound question. Could your own reality function like that coin, remaining a cascade of possibilities until your observation solidifies it into a single state? Let us take this concept a step further. Within the quantum realm, the rules of classical physics do not apply. Particles can exist in multiple locations at the same time, communicate with each other instantly across vast distances, and even vanish, only to rematerialize elsewhere. Is it conceivable that your perception of a stable reality is simply an illusion, a consequence of your own perceptual limitations as an observer.
Schrödinger's famous cat paradox serves as a perfect illustration of this principle. Picture a cat sealed in a box with a device that has a 50% probability of releasing a fatal poison. Quantum theory dictates that until you open the box to check, the cat is in a superposition of states. It is both living and dead at the same time. This makes you wonder, how many such boxes do you open in your own life? And how many alternate realities might be coexisting, just waiting for an observer? Further support for reality being a construct comes from quantum entanglement. This phenomenon describes a deep connection between two particles, where the state of one instantaneously affects the other, regardless of the distance separating them. What does this imply about how you perceive the world? Perhaps you are interconnected in ways far more profound than you have ever thought, a possibility that would reshape your entire understanding of life and existence. Finally, you must consider the observer effect, where the mere act of measuring a quantum phenomenon alters its outcome. If you were to apply this principle to your everyday experience, you would be forced to ask a startling question. Could your own thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions be actively constructing the very reality you inhabit? If that is the case, does it mean we are the designers of our own simulated world? Pursuing this captivating line of thought leads us to the concept of our reality as a form of holographic projection. Consider the possibility that everything you see, feel, and experience is simply a representation of something infinitely more complex, where each part, much like in a hologram, contains the information of the whole. This would imply that every one of us holds a piece of the complete reality within ourselves. Breakthroughs in technology, especially in the realm of quantum computing, are beginning to give us a new understanding of what is real. Picture a future where we possess the ability to simulate quantum systems on a computer. Could this be the first step toward crafting a simulation so convincing it becomes indistinguishable from our own existence? Are we approaching a point where the distinction between simulation and reality blurs into meaninglessness? It is crucial to consider the consequences of these concepts. If the principles of quantum mechanics indicate that reality is something we construct, this fundamentally alters our perception of life, mortality, and our purpose, confronting us with profound questions about the very essence of being. Perhaps our existence is a series of educational simulations, with each one engineered to impart a specific lesson. Every day, your perceptions and the decisions you make sculpt the reality you inhabit, as each minor choice branches into a different result. This process bears a striking resemblance to quantum mechanics, where, like subatomic particles, our lives are a landscape of boundless possibilities, forcing us to decide how we navigate this immense ocean of options. Ultimately, quantum mechanics does more than just challenge our scientific frameworks. It presents a fresh perspective on the philosophy of life. If you accept that we are living inside a simulation, how does that impact your values and beliefs? In a universe that might just be a projection from our own consciousness, where does the quest for meaning ultimately take us? The next time you observe your surroundings and engage with the world, consider that things might not be as they appear. Quantum mechanics encourages you to investigate, to explore, and to contemplate the great depths of your own existence. Through this inquiry, you might find that life is a game of boundless potential, a simulation we all take part in as co-creators of our own reality. The very nature of time has always been an enthralling enigma. What is time, truly? Is it a linear progression that only moves forward, or is it a far more intricate and flexible phenomenon? To properly explore the idea of a simulation,
you must first examine how time is interwoven with your perception of reality itself.
When we discuss simulations, our minds often turn to virtual worlds where time can behave in unconventional ways, and a single minute in such a place might stretch into what feels like an eternity. But what if our own reality functions under similar principles? The notion that time is not a steady current but a sequence of moments that can be altered is a fascinating concept that unlocks numerous possibilities. One of the most mind-bending questions that emerges from this is whether time itself is merely an illusion that your consciousness generates, much like a movie reel advancing one frame at a time. The sequence of events we witness is processed by our minds to create the impression of seamless movement. If this were true, what would the consequences be for your entire understanding of the world?
The paradoxes of time grow even more captivating when you bring in the theory of time travel. If it were possible to journey into the past, would you be able to alter your present circumstances? Or is time perhaps a closed loop where everything that occurs has already been set in motion? While this might seem like something out of science fiction, it forces us to question the fundamental structure of time and the way we experience our lives. Within this framework, the concept of causality becomes particularly intriguing. Our current view is that events follow a specific order, with a clear cause and effect. Yet if time is both malleable and nonlinear, how does that impact the principle that our actions have consequences? This presents a dilemma for the human mind. If everything is already laid out, do you truly possess free will? Quantum physics also provides a compelling lens through which to view this problem, suggesting that particles in the subatomic realm can exist in many states at once. What if time operates in a similar fashion, enabling multiple realities to unfold concurrently? The idea that our timeline could be just one of many coexisting dimensions is genuinely bewildering, challenging our most basic assumptions about existence. Some physicists propose that time resembles a Mobius strip, a continuous surface with only one side and one edge. From a limited perspective, time seems to possess a distinct beginning and end. But what if, in truth, all moments are interconnected in a loop with no clear start or finish? This concept suggests that every action and decision you make is woven into an infinite web of simultaneous realities. Alternatively, you could also reflect on how the cycles of nature shape your sense of time. The changing seasons, the alternation of day and night, and the phases of the moon all establish a rhythm that governs our lives. However, from the perspective of a simulation, is it possible that these very cycles are nothing more than programming designed to mimic the passage of time? Stories like Back to the Future or The Time Machine compel us to think about how past actions could reverberate into the present. Perhaps history itself is a tapestry of possibilities, where every choice you make produces numerous outcomes and repercussions. As you ponder these concepts, it is vital to ask yourself, if time is a fabrication, what does that signify for your own existence? If your life is just a part of a simulation where time can be manipulated, are you genuinely accountable for what you do? Or are you simply an actor following a pre-written script? The way you perceive time may also be a reflection of how you experience life itself. Feelings such as anxiety, joy, and even boredom have the power to warp your internal sense of how quickly or slowly moments pass. Have you ever noticed how a moment of pure happiness can fly by in a flash? Yet a period of hardship seems to last forever. This elastic perception of time aligns with the theory that if we are in a simulation, our feelings could be the very mechanisms used to manipulate our perceived reality. When we discuss time within the framework of a simulation, it forces us to confront one of humanity's most profound questions. If you accept that we are adrift in a vast universe and that time is not fixed, what does that imply for your identity and your relationships with others? Exploring these concepts can initiate a journey of self-discovery, where the lines between the real and the artificial merge into an endless enigma.
So, as you contemplate the nature of time and its possible link to simulations, remember that every answer you find will likely give rise to even more questions. The pursuit of truth about your own existence is a journey that is profoundly worth the effort. Over the last several decades, artificial intelligence, or AI, has made staggering advancements, progressing from simple chess-playing programs to sophisticated systems that can produce art and emulate human creativity. But what if this growing proficiency at replicating what we do leads you to question whether reality itself is a programmed environment? We may be approaching a point where our own simulated creations become so complex that we can no longer tell them apart from the genuine article. Science fiction often presents worlds completely governed by artificial intelligence, from daily routines to the essence of being. While these narratives are fictional, they bring up unsettling possibilities. If an AI can engineer a virtual universe that feels as authentic as the one you live in, what logic prevents you from considering that your own reality is a simulation built by a higher intelligence? This thought makes you wonder who, or what, is running the program, and if you are merely a character in a cosmic game designed by a consciousness you cannot comprehend. AI's capacity to learn and adapt raises a fascinating point. If a machine can not only mimic human behavior but in some cases exceed it, does that mean the distinction between human and artificial is dissolving? Picture a future where AI develops its own emotions and ambitions. What would that mean for you? In a universe where machines can experience life, would you still be the creator, or would you become the created? This rapid development of artificial intelligence compels us to examine the very concept of control. If you build an AI that can simulate entire worlds, who is ultimately in charge of that reality? This question highlights immense ethical dilemmas about power and responsibility, potentially positioning you at the mercy of your own creations, much like the dynamic between mythical gods and mortals. Even now, AI is used to craft deeply immersive video games and virtual reality experiences that are so engrossing you can easily forget you are in a simulated space. If you extend this idea, it begs the question of whether your everyday life is also a meticulously designed experience. Are you perhaps navigating a storyline that you never personally chose? Machines capable of generating virtual worlds are advancing continuously, with some now able to create landscapes, characters, and narratives that feel profoundly human. This raises the prospect of an advanced AI building a simulation that is even more compelling than your own reality. Should that happen, would you even be able to tell the difference, as the boundary between what is real and what is not simply fades away? The consequences of an AI powerful enough to create simulated realities are far-reaching, potentially affecting everything from your social interactions to your understanding of morality. A code of conduct would become incredibly difficult to establish in a world where you could no longer distinguish the real from the artificial, fundamentally changing how you live, think, and feel. As you continue to witness the expansion of artificial intelligence, it is vital to confront the questions that arise about your own existence. Are you programmed to live within this simulation, or are you an inhabitant of a universe designed by another being? The idea that you could be part of a grand experiment conducted by a superior intelligence is a notion that can be simultaneously terrifying and thrilling, altering your entire search for meaning. The progress in AI technology also makes you reconsider the nature of free will. If a machine can forecast your actions by analyzing your behavioral patterns, can you truly claim to be making your own choices? This dilemma mirrors your own reality.
Are you, to some extent, a product of a pre-designed environment, with your decisions being little more than responses to a script written long ago? Artificial intelligence also presents a remarkable chance to explore the depths of human creativity. By working alongside machines that learn from your interactions, you could push the limits of art and expression. However, you must ask if, in this process, you risk diluting your own human essence. At what point does a creation stop being human and instead become an artificial copy? Every time you engage with technology and AI, you move a step closer to grasping how your own creations can influence your perception of reality. As we head toward a future filled with increasingly sophisticated simulations, the line separating the real from the fabricated will become progressively hazy. It makes you wonder if we are nearing a time when reality itself will be nothing more than a perfectly crafted illusion, a final state where AI's attempt to emulate human experience forces you to fundamentally re-examine your own existence.
In a world where manufactured realities are increasingly the standard, what defines our humanity? As we progress, it becomes essential for you to adopt a mindful and critical stance on the repercussions of designing and inhabiting these simulated worlds. This exploration into the convergence of artificial intelligence and simulation makes one thing clear. We are confronted with far more questions than answers, and perhaps our focus should shift from a quest for certainty to an acceptance of life's inherent wonder and ambiguity. Ultimately, whether our existence is a simulation or not, the most important thing is the way you choose to live and the bonds you forge with others.
String theory has long fascinated the minds of both scientists and philosophers, proposing that the universe is fundamentally more complex than it appears. It suggests that instead of a reality composed of distinct interacting particles, everything is actually made of infinitesimally small, vibrating strands of energy. Much like a violin string can create a variety of musical notes through different vibrations, these cosmic strings could give rise to every particle and force we observe in our universe. This concept raises a compelling question regarding the simulation hypothesis. If these strings form the very basis of reality, could they themselves be elements of a sophisticated program? You can think of it like a video game, which relies on strings of code to generate an interactive digital world. In a similar fashion, string theory could imply that the reality you perceive is merely a projection generated by an underlying fundamental code. Isn't it a mind-bending thought that every object, every individual, and every experience might just be the result of these strings vibrating in particular ways? Imagine a universe where these strings determine not only the nature of matter, but also the very structure of space and time. From such a viewpoint, the cosmos might be an enormous network of simulations, with each string representing a distinct potential reality. If everything is interconnected and governed by these vibrations, you have to wonder what would happen if your own thoughts and decisions could actually influence how they resonate. Through this mechanism, we might possess the ability to modify our own simulated experience, even if we remain completely unaware of it. String theory doesn't just put forward the idea of multiple realities. It also suggests that our universe might contain additional, hidden dimensions beyond the three you are familiar with. Can you picture a world where these unseen dimensions actively influence our existence, giving rise to phenomena that seem inexplicable or supernatural? It's possible that what we interpret as magic is simply the interaction of a higher dimension with our own. The existence of multiple dimensions also presents profound questions about the nature of your free will. If every choice you make is just a consequence of string vibrations within a multidimensional cosmos, are you genuinely making autonomous decisions? Or are you merely acting out a predetermined sequence? This very dilemma, which probes the delicate boundary between free will and determinism, is likely one of the reasons string theory holds such a powerful appeal.
Now, if you entertain the notion that simulations built upon these strings are real, a whole new set of questions emerges. Who or what is in control of this elaborate simulation? Is it some form of supreme being, a highly advanced artificial intelligence, or could it even be a future version of humanity? The idea of a master architect behind the simulation is simultaneously thrilling and terrifying, as the possibility that our universe is a deliberate creation forces you to confront the question of our ultimate purpose within this reality.
Contemplating the consequences of string theory can be both deeply profound and disorienting. If you accept that our universe is a simulation founded on vibrating strings, what does that signify for your everyday life? Does it reduce your triumphs, your struggles, and your joys to mere elements within an elaborate game? While reflecting on this might trigger an existential crisis, it can also provide you with a completely new lens through which to view your life and human connections.
Furthermore, some theorists propose that string theory could provide the framework for understanding phenomena we currently label as paranormal. For instance, abilities like telepathy or intuition might be explained by the interactions of these strings in ways that our current science cannot yet grasp. The realization that our emotional and spiritual bonds might be physically intertwined through these fundamental strings could radically reshape your perception of relationships.
As we continue to investigate string theory and its links to simulation, we also discover striking parallels between the realms of science and art. Artists frequently attempt to capture the complexity of reality through their work, while scientists strive to decode the universe's greatest mysteries. It could be that in a reality built from strings, science and art are merely two different approaches to the same goal, trying to comprehend and articulate the meaning of existence. Ultimately, string theory compels you to question everything you believe to be true about the world. While the concept that we inhabit a simulation might initially sound absurd, it transforms into a deeply compelling topic for debate when paired with ideas like this. This intellectual journey not only challenges your fundamental assumptions about reality, but also inspires a more profound search for meaning and understanding.
So, are we living in a simulation that is based on vibrating strings? We may never arrive at a conclusive answer. However, the true value of these theories is found in their capacity to spark a sense of curiosity and wonder. They encourage you to continue asking questions, to keep searching, and most importantly, to never stop dreaming. In the end, the journey of discovery we embark upon to understand our place in the cosmos is far more significant than finding a final solution.
Have you ever stopped to consider what a simulation truly represents? Throughout human history, our minds have devised incredible scenarios to probe the very nature of what is real. In this context, thought experiments serve as powerful instruments, enabling us to transcend the mundane and engage in deep philosophical reflection. But how exactly do these conceptual exercises function, and what can they teach you about your own existence?
Consider for a moment what you would do if someone revealed that your world is a simulation, and every experience you've had is just part of a complex program. How would you process such a revelation? Would you embrace this new understanding of reality, or would you find yourself challenging its very premise? Questions like these compel us to think about what might exist beyond the limits of our immediate senses. One of the most well-known thought experiments to tackle this is the brain in a vat scenario. It asks you to imagine that your brain has been removed from your body and is being kept alive in a vat of nutrients, all while connected to a computer, feeding it a completely simulated existence. If this were your actual situation, Would you have any way to differentiate between the illusion and what is real? This exercise forces us to seriously question the very nature of our perception and the trustworthiness of our senses.
Philosophers frequently employ this type of contemplation to probe the most fundamental questions of being. If everything we perceive is nothing more than a simulation, then what does it truly mean to be a human being? And what could consciousness possibly be if every sensation we have is artificially generated? The intricacy of these inquiries mirrors the deep-seated human desire to understand not just the world around us, but also our specific place within it. Now, imagine a different scenario. Instead of a brain in a vat, you are placed in a virtual universe with the absolute freedom to construct any reality you wish. This idea is very similar to the experience offered by virtual reality games, which allow you to become anyone you choose. Could it be possible that our own reality is just an infinitely more sophisticated version of such a game? If we possess the ability to design our own experiences in a digital world, what would stop another entity from doing precisely the same with our lives? However, if an experience feels completely genuine, as real as your day-to-day life, does it ultimately make a difference whether it's simulated or not? The distinction between the real and the virtual is becoming increasingly indistinct. In fact, some scientists propose that the bizarre properties of quantum mechanics might even support the theory that we are living inside a simulation. The phenomenon of superposition, for example, where a particle can exist in multiple states at once, fundamentally challenges our conventional grasp of reality. If particles can behave in such profoundly strange ways, what might that imply about the world we perceive as solid and predictable? In this context, profound questions about the essence of time also emerge. If our reality is indeed a simulation, then is time itself merely an artificial construct of the program? Thought experiments about time, including the classic time travel paradoxes, invite us to contemplate how our perception of existence would alter if we could manipulate time as we please, perhaps remembering events that never occurred or foreseeing a future that has not yet been written. As we stand on the brink of an era defined by advanced artificial intelligence, another challenging question presents itself. Could an AI eventually create its own simulated reality? The notion that a machine of human origin could produce immersive experiences that are indistinguishable from our own reality presents immense ethical and philosophical quandaries. If an AI can fashion a world for humans to inhabit, does that AI then become the true creator of that reality? The paradoxes presented by these thought experiments are not just intellectually stimulating. They bring us face to face with the very core of our own humanity. If everything is, in the end, a simulation, what does that imply for our emotions, our morality, and the bonds we form with others? Can we still find meaning in our lives and cherish our experiences if they are nothing but an intricate play of light and shadow? Science fiction has extensively explored these concepts. Films such as The Matrix and Inception are not merely sources of entertainment. They provoke us to question our reality in ways we might never have considered on our own. When we watch characters grapple with the challenge of telling the real from the simulated, we are forced to confront our own latent doubts and fears about the world we take for granted. The true elegance of thought experiments is found in their power to compel us to think differently. They serve as invitations to challenge our most ingrained beliefs and to peer beyond the boundaries of what we accept as established knowledge. Every scenario that is put forth provides us with a fresh vantage point, a new lens through which to understand our own existence. Ultimately, When you reflect on how these experiments affect our lives, it becomes evident that they are more than just philosophical exercises. They assist us in nurturing an unquenchable curiosity about reality, all while making us more conscious of the limitations of our own perception. If everything we perceive is just the visible part of a much larger whole, what other worlds and truths might be waiting for us to discover? Human perception is itself a truly remarkable phenomenon. Have you ever paused to think about how our minds translate what we see, hear, and feel into coherent experience? Every time you open your eyes, you are deluged with a world of sensory information that your mind transforms into your lived reality. But what if I were to suggest that, in a very real sense, we are the primary architects of that reality? The way you perceive the world isn't a simple, passive reflection of what's out there. It is profoundly shaped by your mind, your past, and your personal beliefs. When you gaze upon a landscape, you aren't just registering colors and forms. You are actively interpreting them and assigning them meaning. This brings up a critical question. How much of your interpretation is an objective record, and how much is a subjective creation? Think about an artist creating a painting. They use color and shape to communicate an emotion or an idea. Yet every single person who views that artwork brings their own unique history and feelings to it, resulting in a different interpretation for each observer. This leads one to wonder, is what we call reality essentially a constantly evolving masterpiece, where each of us is simultaneously both the painter and the spectator? In this view, reality is a blank canvas, and our perception is the brush, leaving us to consider a question that quantum physics also finds itself exploring. If we are constantly shaping our reality, who truly gets to decide what is real? The subatomic realm presents behaviors that defy our conventional understanding of reality. For instance, the renowned principle of wave-particle duality suggests that particles can inhabit multiple states at once until you observe them. This fascinating concept implies that the very act of looking doesn't just uncover what is real. It might actually be what brings that reality into existence. So, what does this mean for how you experience the world every day? If your observation can genuinely shape reality, it begs the question of whether you are merely a passive bystander in the universe, or if you play an active part in its formation. This deep link between the observer and the observed is mirrored in psychology, where your inherent biases and expectations can color how you perceive both yourself and others. Approaching a situation with a negative frame of mind often ensures that your perception of it will also be negative. In contrast, adopting a positive perspective can reveal opportunities where others only see obstacles. Which leads me to wonder if we can consciously train our minds to view the world in a way that serves us better. Your perception of reality is also profoundly shaped by the cultural and social beliefs that surround you. From your earliest years, the narratives you are exposed to mold your worldview and your sense of self. If you were raised in an environment that champions competition, you are far more likely to see the world as an arena where only the strongest can succeed. But imagine if you had been brought up in a culture that emphasizes cooperation and community. Your entire understanding of reality could be fundamentally different. This idea of being an active observer naturally leads us to contemplate the essence of consciousness itself. What is it, precisely? Some scientists propose that consciousness is a complex process that emerges from the brain's intricate workings, while others believe it may be a fundamental property of the universe. If consciousness can influence your perception of reality, is it possible that you are, in a sense, projecting your own simulation through your thoughts and emotions? Picture every decision you make as a single pixel on a vast screen. Each one, no matter how minor, contributes to the complete image. The choices you make,
the emotions you feel, and the experiences you gather are the fundamental elements that construct your reality. So, what might happen if you started making more conscious and deliberate decisions? Could you actually change the image you project onto your life?
The implications of this are truly profound on both a personal and a societal scale. If each of us possesses the power to influence our own reality, we also carry the responsibility to consider how our perceptions affect others. The way you see the world can set off a ripple effect, influencing everyone around you. The question then becomes, are you ready to become an agent of change, not only in your own life, but in the lives of others as well? This entire line of thinking brings us to reflect on the nature of time. Your perception of time can be incredibly fluid. For some, it flies by during an enjoyable moment, while for others it can drag on endlessly in situations of boredom. Could it be that your sense of time is simply another layer of the simulation you are experiencing? If time can be felt so subjectively, it forces us to question if what you consider real is anything more than a construction of your mind. Ultimately, human perception is a fascinating and complex journey that reminds us that reality, as you know it, may be nothing more than a projection from within. The next time you face a difficult situation, I urge you to ask yourself, how am I perceiving this? What can I do to shift my approach and, just maybe, my reality? The key might be in realizing that while you cannot always control what happens around you, you always have the power to choose how you interpret it. Are you prepared to become the artist of your own life? Could it be that the reality we all experience is nothing more than an elaborate simulation? This idea has captured the imagination of philosophers, scientists, and filmmakers for decades. It pushes us toward a deeply profound question. If we are indeed inside a simulation, what would that mean for our existence and our entire understanding of the world? Philosophy has tried to answer this question for centuries, but the concept of living in a simulation adds a uniquely modern dimension to the age-old debate. Philosophy is founded on a search for truth, so when you consider the possibility of being in a simulation, you face a dilemma. How can you ever know that what you perceive as real is not simply an illusion? This uncertainty invites a deeper exploration into the very nature of reality itself. This forces us to question the reliability of our senses. If everything you see, feel, and experience could be part of a carefully designed deception, how would that alter your way of thinking? Philosophical theories about simulation compel us to scrutinize the concept of reality. Is reality something that exists independently of us, or is it a construct of our minds? Certain philosophical schools, like idealism, propose that reality is inherently mental, a view that aligns with the idea that, in a simulation, reality would be the creation of a programmer, or some higher entity. In this context, the theory of radical skepticism also emerges. This philosophical approach argues that you cannot trust your sensory perceptions to know the truth. If we are inside a simulation, then everything you know could be a product of that program, and in such a scenario, doubt becomes an invaluable tool. Skepticism urges you to question your existence and to explore the possibility that what you consider real is nothing more than an intricate illusion. The connection between a simulated reality and free will is also fascinating. If your reality is a program, do you truly have the capacity to make free choices, or are your actions predetermined by the simulation's code? This question challenges the very notion of personal responsibility. If your decisions are already scripted, are you truly accountable for your actions? Reflecting on this can be unsettling, but it is essential for understanding our lives.
a context in which the idea of the observer takes on a completely new meaning. In the realm of quantum physics, the simple act of observing an experiment can fundamentally alter its outcome. This raises a profound question. Could our perception of reality have a similar effect on the simulation we might be living in? If you were to become fully aware of your simulated existence, wouldn't that completely change how you interact with your world? This connection between the observer and the observed is a critical point in the philosophical debate over simulation theory. The implications of residing in a simulation extend far beyond abstract philosophy, compelling us to grapple with significant ethical questions. If higher beings are responsible for creating this reality, do they have a moral obligation to ensure the well-being of its inhabitants? Is it ethical to manipulate conscious entities within a simulated environment? These moral quandaries force you to reflect on the true impact of your actions, even within a world that may be entirely artificial. Spiritual beliefs and ancient teachings also intersect with the simulation hypothesis in fascinating ways. Throughout human history, many cultures have described life as a dream or an elaborate illusion. From this perspective, you can interpret certain spiritual traditions as frameworks for understanding a simulated existence. If reality is indeed an illusion, then the search for truth becomes a direct path to enlightenment, with these teachings guiding you through a labyrinth of uncertainty.
The idea that you are living in a simulation can also profoundly influence how you relate to other people. If you begin to see others merely as characters in a program, how does that shift your capacity for empathy and compassion? You might feel more inclined to view them as part of a game rather than as fully realized individuals. It is essential to remember, however, that your interactions have very real consequences, irrespective of the ultimate nature of your existence. Philosophy surrounding the simulation theory challenges you to find authentic meaning in a reality that could be an artificial construct. If your entire existence is a simulation, how is it possible to live an authentic life? This question resonates at the very heart of the human experience. The search for meaning is an intrinsic part of being human, and the simulation hypothesis invites you to explore this quest on an even deeper level. The dialogue between philosophy and simulation is an endless one, and as you explore these concepts, you begin to realize that the nature of reality is a profound mystery. The idea that we inhabit a simulation is not just an intellectual exercise. It serves as an invitation to question your deepest beliefs and perceptions. Ultimately, philosophy offers you the tools to navigate this maze of questions and encourages you to seek your own truth, even in the face of immense uncertainty. Reflecting on the possibility of being in a simulation doesn't just make you question reality. It also compels you to appreciate the human experience in its totality. Every emotion you feel, every connection you forge, and every moment of joy or sorrow is a part of this journey, regardless of whether it's happening in a simulation or not. This innate search for meaning and connection is what truly makes us human. And perhaps that is the most real thing of all. The theory that we live in a simulation intertwines with spirituality in some truly compelling ways. What if your deepest beliefs about life and existence are, in some manner, a reflection of this very idea? By exploring this connection, you may uncover a range of surprising similarities that could change your entire view of the world. Most spiritual traditions speak of realities that extend far beyond the tangible physical realm, describing spiritual planes, higher dimensions, or alternative worlds that coexist with our everyday lives. Could it be that these beliefs are simply echoes of an ancient intuition that what we perceive is not all there is?
Isn't it fascinating how the Sanskrit word maya translates to illusion? This notion that life is a game, a dream, or even a projection aligns perfectly with the thought that we might be living in a simulation. In this sense, spirituality and simulation theory seem to perform an ancient dance together, both seeking a truth that lies beyond mere appearances. Some might even argue that meditation and spiritual practices are the very tools that allow us to awaken from this illusion, enabling us to experience a deeper, more authentic reality beyond the surface of the everyday world.
The idea that our lives are part of a simulation also raises critical questions about purpose. If we are indeed inside a simulation, what is the purpose of our existence? This is a question many religions have tried to answer throughout history. Some believe that the purpose of life is to learn, to grow, and to evolve spiritually. It's conceivable that, much like a video game designed with levels and missions, our lives are structured to provide us with specific lessons and opportunities for growth. Reincarnation, a belief present in numerous spiritual traditions, suggests that our souls return to experience different lives and realities. It's an intriguing thought that, if we are in a simulation, this system might be designed to allow us to experience multiple realities over time as part of a journey of learning and evolution. On a related note, the concept of karma is deeply rooted in many Eastern philosophies, based on the idea that our actions have consequences. Could it be that karma functions like the underlying code in a simulation, where your decisions and actions directly influence the outcome of your experiences? The concept of living inside a simulation introduces a profound ethical layer, suggesting that our decisions resonate far beyond what we immediately perceive. This prompts a long-standing question in the quest for truth. Is it possible for spirituality and science to coexist harmoniously? A growing number of contemporary thinkers propose they might simply be different facets of the same fundamental reality, making the simulation hypothesis a potential bridge connecting these two distinct methods of comprehending our existence. Moreover, spirituality encourages a deep inquiry into the very essence of consciousness itself. If you accept the premise that we exist within a simulation, you must then ask what part our own consciousness has in shaping that reality. Consciousness is a foundational concept in spiritual thought, often presented as the ultimate key to unlocking the true nature of the universe. This raises the fascinating possibility that through our focus and perception, you and I are actively co-creating our own experiences within this simulated world. You should also reflect on how accepting a simulated reality could reshape your spiritual convictions. Realizing that our world is a construct could foster a greater sense of openness toward various spiritual traditions, allowing you to see them as different levels in a single, overarching game, each presenting unique rules and valuable lessons. The ultimate question becomes whether seeing our lives as a simulation can forge new pathways to connect with each other and with a higher power, potentially guiding us toward deeper compassion as fellow players in the same intricate game. Since the dawn of time, the phenomenon of dreaming has captivated the human imagination. Within these nocturnal experiences, our minds construct entirely separate worlds, brimming with infinite potential. But I want to propose something more. What if your dreams are actually a glimpse into the fundamental structure of our reality? Dreams frequently compel us to challenge our assumptions about what is real, leading to the question of whether they are, in fact, a type of personalized simulation that we enter each night. As you drift off to sleep and enter the dream world, you can defy gravity, speak with loved ones who have passed on, and live through scenarios impossible in your waking life. This all unfolds in a realm where the conventional laws of logic and physics simply cease to apply. The notion that our dreams are pieces of an alternate reality is an idea that is as enthralling as it is bewildering.
suggesting they could be a microcosm of a much grander simulation that encompasses all of us.
The link between dreams and simulations grows even more compelling when you look at it from a scientific angle, where dreams are analyzed as an altered state of consciousness. In this state, the mind constructs its own complex narrative, which is functionally similar to how a computer simulation can render a complete universe. Is it possible that dreaming serves as a training ground, teaching you how to operate within realities that don't adhere to the natural laws you're accustomed to? You could see the dream process as a method of programming your own perception of reality. Much like a character in a video game has to learn and adapt to its surroundings, you do something similar when you navigate the landscapes of your dreams. This suggests that every dream might be a personal laboratory where you experiment with various realities before you engage with the one you call real. Then you have the phenomenon of lucid dreaming, which introduces an entirely new dimension to this conversation. When you become aware that you are dreaming and gain the ability to direct the events that unfold, you essentially step into the role of a programmer within your own private simulation. If that experience doesn't point to the possibility that our waking existence is also a type of simulation, then I'm not sure what would. The philosopher and author David Eagleman delved into the concept that our reality is entirely a fabrication of our brains. In the same way your mind builds a dreamscape from your memories and past experiences, your waking life could be constructed through a similar process. This leads to a startling question. Are you and I participants in a shared dream, completely oblivious to the fact that it's a simulation? When you immerse yourself in this line of thought, it's easy to feel a sense of being adrift in the sheer scope of what it implies.
Dreams serve as a reflection of your deepest desires and most profound fears, presenting you with scenarios that can either test your limits or fill you with happiness. It's possible that, much like in a video game, your dreams provide a safe space to test out various paths and strategies without facing real-world repercussions. From this viewpoint, every dream you have acts as a brief rehearsal for your waking existence.
It's fascinating that numerous cultures throughout history have regarded dreams as gateways to alternate realities or different dimensions. Certain traditions hold that dreams are divine communications or glimpses into the future. Could it be that these ancient interpretations are actually much closer to the truth than modern thought allows? If dreams truly grant you access to other realms of existence, then the entire simulation hypothesis gains a significant amount of credibility. According to Sigmund Freud's analysis, dreams are a vehicle through which you can discover hidden aspects of your own mind. Following this logic, each dream can be seen as a simulation of your most intimate thoughts and feelings. The phenomenon of shared dreams, where multiple people report having the exact same dream, pushes this inquiry into even more profound territory, suggesting an underlying connection. If it's possible for dreams to be a shared experience, does that imply we are all interconnected within a single, simulated universe? Could you be contributing to a collective network of experiences through your dreams, one that exists beyond the normal constraints of space and time? The relationship between dreams and the simulation concept gets even more intricate when you factor in the nature of memory, which, much like your dreams, is inherently subjective and notoriously susceptible to alteration. Have you ever had the unsettling feeling that the world around you is somehow stranger than it appears? Consider for a moment if someone proposed that your entire reality is nothing more than an elaborate computer program. This very concept has long fascinated philosophers, scientists, and artists. But what if I suggested that this isn't merely a philosophical puzzle, but a profound lens through which we can re-examine our own existence and our place within the world? When we entertain the idea that our lives are a sequence of programmed memories, we step onto a precarious path where the line between what is real and what is an illusion begins to dissolve. This concept echoes what neuroscience is discovering about dreams. Researchers have found that the brain is astonishingly active while you sleep, constructing entire narratives and worlds from its network of neural pathways. This raises a compelling question about the nature of our own consciousness. Could it be that these intricate dreamscapes are, in fact, personal simulations that help you process and make sense of your waking life? If so, what does that imply for us? If the dream state is a mirror of a simulated reality, perhaps it deserves far more of our attention. It's possible that by deciphering the language of our dreams, we might actually be learning the fundamental rules of the simulation we inhabit every day. Ultimately, this link between dreams and simulation forces a deeper contemplation of our own existence. If dreaming offers a glimpse into other potential realities, then the notion that we are living inside a simulation might not be so strange after all. In the end, perhaps life itself is the most profound dream, a simulated experience designed for exploration, learning, and growth. The real question is, are you prepared to awaken and discover what lies beyond it? Exploring the social consequences of the simulation theory takes us into remarkable new territory. The very belief that we are living in a simulation could fundamentally alter how you view your life, your connections with others, and your sense of duty. How would you personally cope with the revelation that your choices, your aspirations, and even your deepest feelings might simply be lines of code? While this may sound alarming, it could also be incredibly liberating, suggesting a reality where creativity and self-reinvention are limitless. Social media offers a tangible example of how easily our perception of reality can be shaped and distorted. The images you see are almost always meticulously crafted and presented to project a certain ideal. In this way, you could say we are already participating in a kind of social simulation, where the online identities we create are often far removed from our true selves. This reality certainly calls into question the authenticity of our digital relationships and suggests our perceived world might just be one more constructed layer. Accepting that you live in a simulation could dramatically influence your behavior toward others. If you see life as a game or a program, you might be tempted to act with less consideration, assuming your actions carry no genuine weight or consequence. Yet, isn't our shared belief in a tangible reality the very thing that fosters empathy and compassion? The way you perceive existence directly shapes how you interact with the people around you. Conversely, the idea of a simulation could reshape your ambitions. Who among us hasn't envisioned themselves as the protagonist of their own epic? Believing you are in a simulation might empower you to alter your surroundings and defy your perceived limitations, much like a player in a video game. This mindset could inspire a powerful drive to push beyond conventional boundaries, though it also carries a significant risk. Skeptics argue this is simply a way to evade responsibility, where treating everything as a game leads to a failure to take any choice seriously, raising the question of whether there's inherent value in this kind of deep questioning, regardless of the answer. Stories centered on simulated realities have become a cornerstone of popular culture. Films such as The Matrix and Inception have masterfully explored this theme, presenting characters who must confront the very fabric of their world. These narratives compel you, the viewer, to turn that same critical eye upon your own life. Such tales do more than just entertain. They serve as invitations to deeply reflect on the nature of your own existence long after the credits roll. Literature has also provided its own unique insights, with authors like Philip K. Dick crafting worlds where reality itself begins to fracture,
forcing characters to navigate the existential dread of doubting everything they know. In the scientific community, the simulation hypothesis has ignited fierce debate. Some physicists theorize that our universe might be a hologram, prompting us to ask if we are merely spectators in a vast cosmic projection. This curiosity could very well be a primary catalyst for the next wave of scientific discovery.
The possibility of living inside a simulation also forces you to confront the purpose of your own life. If this environment is constructed, what does it mean to have a genuine purpose? While some might find solace in believing their actions are part of a greater, pre-written design, others could feel an overwhelming sense of futility, as if their efforts are ultimately meaningless. This stark contrast creates a space for profound personal reflection on what truly drives you. Even spirituality is touched by the concept of a simulated reality. Throughout history, countless belief systems have sought to explain our existence and the connection between humanity and the cosmos. If you view the world as a simulation, it could completely redefine ancient spiritual concepts. Perhaps terms like the soul or enlightenment are simply different ways of describing our true nature within this intricate, programmed universe.
Do you ever get the feeling that the reality around you is more peculiar than it first appears? The concept of our lives being a simulation has long captivated creators and audiences in both literature and cinema. Films like The Matrix and Inception present profound challenges to our definition of what is real, exploring the thin boundary between authentic experience and fabrication. The reason these narratives resonate so deeply with us is perhaps because, on some level, we have all wondered if our existence is truly our own, or if we are merely actors in a script directed by unseen forces.
The idea of a simulated existence is hardly a recent invention. Ancient philosophers like Plato explored a similar concept with his renowned allegory of the cave, which depicts prisoners who perceive reality only as shadows cast upon a wall. The notion that our senses might be deceiving us has remained a persistent theme in human thought for centuries, prompting us to ask if we now live in a modern cave where our perception is shaped by technology and media. This inquiry continues in modern fiction, with authors like William Gibson in his novel Neuromancer, who envisions a future where virtual reality and artificial intelligence merge, blurring the lines between the genuine and the simulated. Today, cinema and video games serve as powerful platforms for investigating this very idea. The Matrix, for instance, depicts a world where humanity is unknowingly trapped inside a digital construct built by machines, forcing us to question our own dependence on technology. Interactive experiences, such as the games Stanley Parable and Portal, also challenge our perceptions by playing with the notions of choice and predetermined paths, offering a sense of free will within a controlled environment. These stories make you wonder if our own lives are a game designed by another entity, where our decisions are simply part of a pre-established script. The theme has thoroughly permeated popular culture, most notably in television series like Westworld, where artificial beings begin to develop consciousness and question the nature of their own existence. The show compels us to contemplate what it truly means to be human, if machines can feel and doubt their reality. This is taken to a more philosophical level by thinkers like Jean Baudrillard, who argued in his book Simulacra and Simulation that we inhabit a world where images and representations have entirely replaced reality itself. We are so immersed in our ideas about life that we may have lost our connection to what is authentic. The influence of simulation theory also extends into the world of contemporary art, where artists like Olafur Eliasson create immersive installations that intentionally play with the viewer's perception. Stepping into their works can feel like being transported to another dimension, where reality and illusion intertwine, forcing you to question the very act of seeing. In a similar vein, spiritual connections can be viewed as an attempt to transcend the simulation, a way to seek meaning beyond the reality that is presented to us, and find something more profound beneath the surface.
Ultimately, it's important to remember that the idea of living in a simulation does not have to be a threat. On the contrary, it can be an invitation to explore beyond what we know, to question everything, and to seek out answers. Embracing the possibility that our world is an elaborate construct can open our minds and hearts, inspiring us to create, connect, and live more fully. The next time you feel trapped in routine, remember that perhaps you are in a simulation, and within that thought lies a spark of freedom and creativity, just waiting to be discovered. This brings us to a final, powerful question. If you had full control over your own simulation, what would you do? Your answer could be the first step toward a more fulfilling and conscious life.
As you dive into these concepts, perhaps the real goal isn't to uncover a definitive answer, but to relish the journey of exploration itself. In the end, reality could be just as elaborate and marvelous as the most detailed screenplay. The question of whether we might be living inside a simulation has fascinated thinkers, scientists, and artists for years. So, let's explore the arguments that lend support to this incredible hypothesis and examine why many consider our existence to be a carefully crafted computer program. To start, think about the rapid evolution of our own technology. We've seen video games advance from simple pixels to virtual worlds so lifelike they blur the line between the digital and the real. If this trend continues, how long until we can craft a simulation that's completely indistinguishable from our own reality? If humanity is on the verge of this capability, it stands to reason that a more advanced civilization has likely already achieved it. This idea is central to philosopher Nick Bostrom's simulation argument, which proposes that if countless simulations have been created throughout the cosmos, the statistical probability is that you and I are living within one of them right now. Physics provides another fascinating angle on this question, proposing that everything you perceive could be the output of mathematical code. Certain scientists have pointed out that when you examine the fundamental building blocks of the universe, you discover patterns that look remarkably like programming algorithms. This raises profound implications for our lives, our choices, and our entire concept of free will, if reality is in fact an elaborate computer program. The very nature of consciousness presents another piece of the puzzle. What if your awareness is simply the result of intricate information processing, much like the software running on a computer? This is complemented by the strange world of quantum physics, where phenomena like wave-particle duality defy our classical understanding of reality. Some theorists speculate that the bizarre and unpredictable behavior at the quantum level could be evidence that we're inside a simulation, where what we call the laws of the universe are just programmable lines of code. You can also consider reports of near-death experiences, where individuals describe profound visions as they approach the edge of life. Could these moments be the simulation itself beginning to break down, offering a glimpse of something beyond our programmed existence as consciousness prepares to log out? This ties into advancements in artificial intelligence, where we are creating programs that can learn and generate convincing realities. If we can develop AI with the power to build its own worlds, it's not a huge leap to imagine that a superior intelligence could have already designed a simulation, comprehensive enough to include conscious beings like you and me. It's worth noting that these ideas are not exclusively modern or born from science fiction. The notion that our reality is an illusion has been explored by numerous ancient cultures and schools of thought. From Buddhist teachings on the deceptive nature of the material world to Greek philosophers who questioned the reliability of our senses, these early concepts seem to foreshadow the very questions we're debating about simulation theory today. If our ancestors were grappling with the same fundamental doubts, perhaps their insights deserve our attention. The potential for temporal paradoxes also provides a compelling argument.
If time is a programmable variable within a simulation, concepts like time travel or altering historical events become theoretically possible, simply functions of the underlying code. Moreover, the very fact that we all exist within a consistent shared reality could be interpreted as evidence. The interconnectedness of our experiences, all unfolding within a common world, strongly suggests a unifying code that links our perceptions, much like a program running a single environment for multiple users to interact in.
Although the simulation hypothesis remains a subject of debate, it encourages you to profoundly question your perception of reality. Every argument supporting the idea deepens the fascination, urging an exploration not just of the cosmos, but of your own existence. However, this is far from a settled matter, as many maintain this is a concept belonging more to fiction than to fact. So, we must also consider the counterarguments and examine the evidence skeptics present to affirm that we are not, in fact, living inside a virtual world. Let's dive into this compelling debate. A primary objection leveled against the simulation hypothesis is its profound lack of tangible proof. If our world were indeed an artificial construct, you would expect to find some trace of its simulated nature. Skeptics correctly emphasize that science operates on the empirical method, which requires observation and experimentation to validate any theory. In this instance, we have no physical evidence whatsoever to suggest that our reality is a fabrication designed by a superior intelligence, and the burden of proof rests squarely on those who propose the theory. Furthermore, the sheer complexity required to run such a simulation presents a significant challenge to the idea. Just try to conceive of the staggering computational resources needed to render every minute detail of our existence. If the reality you experience were a simulation, shouldn't we occasionally witness glitches, errors, or inconsistencies in the system? Yet, the world as we perceive it appears remarkably coherent and stable, offering no hint that it is anything but genuine. Another formidable obstacle is the intricacy of human consciousness itself. Your mind possesses an incredible capacity for self-reflection and an awareness of the world that is difficult to explain in computational terms. The notion that artificial intelligence could ever fully replicate the depth and richness of our conscious experience is a matter of intense debate. You have to ask how any programmer could possibly encode the subtleties of human emotion, the spark of creativity, or our search for meaning into a simulation. We should also entertain the straightforward possibility that reality is just that, real. When you observe the universe, you see a set of physical laws that function with astonishing precision. From the orbital mechanics of planets to the strange rules of quantum physics, nature demonstrates a consistent and predictable order. This inherent complexity and reliability could easily be interpreted not as a sophisticated program, but as evidence that the universe exists on its own terms, wholly independent of any observer. An especially potent argument against the simulation theory involves a classic philosophical trap. If you accept that we are in a simulation, it implies the existence of a creator or programmer for this world. This immediately begs the question, who then created that creator? This line of reasoning leads to an infinite regress, a chain of questions that can never be answered. Critics argue that the simulation hypothesis doesn't actually solve the mystery of existence. It simply moves the problem up one level. Consider also the apparent contradictions within the idea of a simulated world. While a simulator might be able to account for all our knowledge and predictable behaviors, how would it handle the truly random events that shape our lives? The human experience is filled with surprises, accidents, and coincidences that feel authentic. If our reality were just a program, wouldn't these unpredictable occurrences point to flaws in the code? The blend of consistency and unpredictability you see in life
might just be the strongest proof that it is genuine.
The very concept of free will is also at stake in this conversation. If you were living inside a simulation, how much of your decision-making would actually be your own? Many people feel that our sense of free will is a core component of what makes us human. If every choice you made was merely predetermined by an algorithm, it would fundamentally alter our sense of personal responsibility and purpose, raising difficult questions about ethics in a simulated world. On a more philosophical level, some thinkers propose that our search for meaning is a defining feature of the human condition. Believing that you live in a simulation could foster a sense of nihilism, a feeling that nothing truly matters since it's all artificial. Conversely, others contend that even within a simulation, your experiences, your emotions, and your relationships would feel entirely real to you. Though this perspective can be hard to reconcile for those who feel a simulation invalidates life's intrinsic value. From a purely scientific standpoint, physics provides powerful explanations for the world you see through observation and repeatable experiments. Established frameworks like quantum mechanics and the theory of relativity offer robust models for how the universe works without ever needing to invoke a simulation. The capacity of science to make testable predictions and experimentally verify its theories lends a great deal of credibility to the reality we currently understand. Finally, it's worth considering that the entire notion of a simulation might simply be a projection of our own modern anxieties. In an era of rapid technological advancement, it is only natural for you to question the nature of existence and what the future holds. Perhaps the idea of living in a simulation says more about our contemporary fears than it does about the actual state of the universe. While the search for answers can lead us down fascinating paths, we must remain wary of getting lost in pure speculation. To conclude, while the idea that we inhabit a simulation is a captivating one that has sparked immense curiosity, the arguments against it are both substantial and compelling. The complete absence of evidence, the immense complexity of consciousness, the consistent laws of the universe, and the deep implications for free will are just a few of the challenges presented by skeptics. Ultimately, engaging with this question forces you to reflect on the nature of your own existence and the meaning you choose to give it, because the quest for truth remains a fundamental part of being human. The proposition that our existence might be a sophisticated simulation has truly captured the public imagination. But you may wonder what science has to say on the matter. In its unending drive to comprehend the cosmos, science is now tackling concepts that stretch far beyond our immediate sensory experience. The simulation principle, particularly its linkage with contemporary theories in physics, stands at the forefront of this exploration. Take quantum mechanics, for instance, which reveals a universe where particles defy simple definition. Within this bizarre quantum realm, elements can exist in multiple states at once, almost as if reality itself is a dynamic video game with ever-changing rules. It's a captivating thought, isn't it? That our own lives could be governed by some form of underlying code. Let's consider Schrödinger's famous cat paradox, which illustrates that a cat can be simultaneously alive and dead until the moment of observation. This implies that the act of observing might actually construct reality, raising the question, could we be inside a simulation that is constantly being rendered based on our perception? String theory offers another perspective, proposing the existence of dimensions entirely beyond our ability to perceive. You can picture our reality as just one of countless vibrating strings within a vast, multidimensional cosmos. Perhaps we are confined to a single one of these strings, which generates our sense of a distinct and solid world.
If you entertain the possibility that the universe possesses an inherent hidden structure, it lends weight to the idea of a simulation, where each new dimension contributes additional layers of intricacy to our experience.
Quantum computing is also a crucial element in this debate. If you can envision a computer capable of processing information in ways that completely transcend the limits of classical machines, you can see the implications. As we develop quantum computers that can solve seemingly impossible problems, it forces us to reconsider our understanding of reality and the feasibility of being in a simulation. It feels as though our own technological progress is bringing us closer to building our own simulated worlds, which inevitably leads to a profound question. If we can create such realities, isn't it plausible that we are inhabitants of one? The field of cosmology also grapples with the concept of simulation, particularly through the holographic principle. Some scientists suggest that our universe could be a holographic projection, where our entire three-dimensional existence is actually information encoded on a distant, two-dimensional surface. If this theory holds true, we could be living in a simulation that is merely a projection of something far more complex, prompting us to ask what this implies about the true nature of our existence. Einstein's theories of relativity add another layer to this fascinating discussion. The principle that time and space are relative suggests that how you perceive time can change based on your circumstances as an observer. If time is not an absolute constant but a malleable variable, the simulation hypothesis gains an intriguing new dimension. It's possible that the linear flow of time we experience is nothing more than a deliberately designed construct within our simulated reality. We must also consider the profound impact of artificial intelligence on this conversation. As we engineer AI systems with the capacity to learn and innovate, a deeply unsettling question emerges. If a machine can effectively simulate consciousness, what does that say about our own? We might be on the cusp of creating simulations whose inhabitants will, in turn, question their own existence, creating a cycle that could be a perfect reflection of our own situation. Time paradoxes represent another fascinating intersection with the simulation theory. What might happen if time travel were possible inside a simulated environment? And could you alter events in the past or future? If our reality is indeed programmable and can be modified, then perhaps the choices you make are simply part of a predetermined script running in a simulated cosmos. This possibility raises serious and troubling questions about the existence of free will. The scientific inquiry into the simulation hypothesis is not confined to abstract thought. There are active research projects searching for actual evidence. Some scientists are investigating whether the fundamental fabric of the universe mirrors a computational network. This would suggest that on the most basic level, reality itself might be a system of data, a kind of cosmic software in which we are all participants. A confirmation of this would shift the simulation idea from philosophical speculation to a tangible scientific possibility. As you reflect on the science pointing to a simulated universe, it's vital to weigh the ethical consequences. If we were to discover that we are living inside a simulation, how would that alter our sense of responsibility to each other and to ourselves? If you are essentially a character in a complex program, does the obligation to act ethically still apply? Or does the very nature of our existence warp our moral framework? Have you ever paused to consider the moral implications of residing within a simulation? The notion that our reality is an artificial construct confronts us with compelling questions about morality and accountability. If your life is the product of programming, who is ultimately responsible for your actions? Can any of our choices be considered genuinely free? Or are they just lines of code executing in a vast system?
Imagine a scenario where advanced beings created our universe to study behavior. In this world, you and everyone you know believes in your own reality, while you are all being observed. What rights would such simulated beings possess, and could their suffering ever be justified for the sake of an experiment?
Now, let's take that thought one step further and consider the implications of us creating an artificial intelligence powerful enough to design its own independent simulation. Imagine an artificial intelligence constructs a reality defined by perpetual agony. Who bears the fault for such a creation? The AI itself, or the programmers who brought it into existence? This kind of question compels us to examine the very notion of accountability, as the line separating maker from made grows increasingly indistinct. The ethical considerations of simulation also govern our interactions within them. Are we obligated to afford simulated entities the same respect and compassion we show to actual people? Should we ever develop simulations with consciousnesses identical to ours? Would exploiting them or inflicting pain be morally acceptable? These inquiries guide us toward the idea of an expanded moral framework that could encompass artificial worlds. Here is another fascinating puzzle to consider. How would your conduct change if you discovered your life was a simulation? For some, the revelation that our entire existence is just an experiment might encourage recklessness, fueled by the belief that one's choices are ultimately without consequence. Conversely, others could feel a profound new sense of duty, driven to behave morally to demonstrate they are more than mere lines of code. You can think of simulation ethics as a reflection of our own choices in the physical world. If we see simulation as a method for examining the human condition, it compels us to reevaluate our core values and what we prioritize. In a universe where reality itself is malleable, what does being human truly entail? Pondering this can bring you to a more profound comprehension of your own humanity and the obligations that accompany it. The possibility of our lives being a simulation also introduces complex questions regarding suffering. If anguish and pain are simply components of a program, do they possess the same weight as they do in our perceived reality? Does suffering lose its meaning if it's just the product of an algorithm? Finding an answer to this could illuminate our comprehension of both pain and empathy in our own world. While examining these moral quandaries, we must acknowledge the impact of our culture. Movies and works of science fiction have explored these very themes, offering ethical dilemmas that echo in our daily experiences. Narratives such as The Matrix or Blade Runner have prompted us to ask whether our choices hold inherent worth, or if we are just actors following a pre-written story. The societal consequences of this idea are also immense. Widespread acceptance that our lives are simulated could fundamentally alter human interaction, potentially eroding empathy as people begin to dismiss the suffering of others as nothing more than a feature of the game. For centuries, simulation theories have been the subject of debate within academic and philosophical spheres. Yet the conversation about the ethics involved must reach a broader public. The potential for our existence to be a simulation shouldn't lessen our obligations to one another or our capacity for moral action. Ultimately, it is crucial for every one of us to contemplate these issues. The next time you are confronted with a moral decision, ask yourself how the concept of a simulated reality might affect your choice, and whether it would cause you to behave in a new way. In our exploration, we've examined the concept of living in a simulation from many angles, with philosophy and science each offering a distinct view into the intricacy of our reality. The question of whether we exist in a simulation is far more than a simple mental exercise. It strikes at the very core of our being. The possibility that our entire reality is manufactured confronts you with an incredible dilemma.
What becomes of your choices, aspirations, and connections if life is a program? This idea can stir both apprehension and a liberating feeling. But is that freedom an escape or a cage? We're conditioned to believe that reality is defined by what our senses can perceive. Yet, the deeper we investigate this subject, the more the distinction between what is real and what is simulated seems to fade. How, then, can you place your faith in your own senses if the world around you is merely a projection? And where does that leave your emotional attachments? The bonds between people, the joy of shared laughter, and the pain of loss are all woven into this potential simulation. But does that make them any less significant? It is vital to recognize that even if this is a simulation, your emotions and experiences are no less authentic. The delight you feel upon seeing a cherished person, or the grief that accompanies loss, are fundamentally human, irrespective of their source. Maybe what's most important isn't whether our world is real, but rather the choices we make about how to navigate our lives within it. The simulation concept also prompts you to re-examine the quest for meaning. If our reality is an artificial construct, does that alter the search for purpose? It's possible that the very drive to find meaning is an intended feature of the simulation, a test created to foster our growth and evolution. Contemplating this could guide you to a richer appreciation of your own humanity and the relationships you build. The question remains, if our purpose is encoded, can we still find significance in our victories and hardships? The answer may be found in how we engage with our world, in the actions we take, and the stories we author for ourselves. If you consider the possibility that life is a simulation, how does that notion intersect with your spiritual beliefs? Countless spiritual traditions describe the material world as an illusion, proposing that the real core of being exists on a plane beyond the physical. This suggests that perhaps we are already closer to grasping the truth than we realize, even if we are confined within a sophisticated program. Science adds a critical dimension to this conversation, as research into the fundamental nature of reality forces you to reconsider concepts once held as absolute. Quantum physics, for instance, reveals that the universe functions according to principles that contradict our everyday intuition. What could this imply for your grasp of reality, and by extension, for the chances that our world is a simulation? As you explore these ideas more deeply, ethical dilemmas naturally come to the surface. If this is all a simulation, who is ultimately accountable for your actions? And do your choices carry genuine weight within this constructed reality? The morality of designing simulated worlds is a profoundly complex field, where the lines of responsibility and ethical conduct become blurred in unforeseen ways. Another compelling facet of this idea is the influence of technology on your own perception. The virtual experiences we can now engineer are advancing at an incredible pace, progressively erasing the distinction between what is real and what is simulated. Could it be that through our constant digital engagement, we are already building intricate simulations of our own lives? It is also important to remember that the simulation concept has been a boundless wellspring of creativity in popular culture. The notion of simulated worlds has captivated countless people through films and literature, offering more than just entertainment. These stories prompt you to look inward and contemplate your own existence and the nature of the reality you inhabit. Ultimately, the persistent question remains: are you living inside a simulation? The definitive answer might be less significant than the way this question pushes you to examine what being human truly entails. It encourages you to challenge assumptions, search for knowledge, and engage in a broader discussion about your reality, whether it is manufactured or not.
When you consider everything we have explored, the most vital thing becomes the way you decide to live your life. The core of your existence, whether within a simulation or a physical reality, is defined by your innate drive to comprehend, to experience emotion, and to form connections with others. It is this perpetual quest for meaning that truly defines our humanity.
So, what is your perspective? Do you conduct your life as if you were in a simulation, or do you venture to think that reality possesses a depth and complexity far beyond what it appears to be? Your answer could be the catalyst for a completely new awareness of your own existence, because life is a personal journey, and you have the ability to shape it, regardless of the universe you find yourself in.